Morning, everyone. LightningESL.com. My job diaries, employment counselor. What does that mean? It simply means helping people get a job. Yeah. Years ago, going back late 1970s, early 80s, I took a chance on being an employment counselor, getting people jobs. Those are the days of disco. Those are the days of bell bottom. Those are the days of polyester suits, things like that. Yeah. So this particular job was downtown Toronto at Bay and Queen Street, if you know the area. And we were across the street from the old city hall. Yeah, good location as a business location, office building like normal. And this particular job was kind of strange, you might say to yourself. Why is he doing this such a thing? Well, like anything else, let's try this type of job. Let's try that. The job paid me a draw plus commission, which simply means you got a set salary per week, which is low, and commission. Now, commission itself is extra money based on the salary that I place you into a job. Example, let's say I placed you into a job that pays $100,000 a year, all right? My extra payment or extra salary would include a percentage of your yearly salary. Let's say I made an extra $10,000, just like that. If you passed probation in your new job with my help, yeah, I would get a $10,000 check, just like that, yeah. The job I worked at primarily had people with lower incomes, anywhere from $20,000 a year to $80,000 a year, a little lower. So while I was working there, I was taught how to basically answer a phone call, make a phone call, contact companies totally at random, cold calling it's called. I had a list of actual companies we've dealt with before. I contacted them again, tried to open up ideas about future job opportunities, plus interviewing people. Now, the people who came into our offices for interviewing, they came from the same building. In other words, just above us, or 2 floors above our location in the building, was an employment center run by the Canadian government. Yeah, it was Canadian government job type of boards. So people come in off the street, they'd go to that location, look on job boards, opportunities as management trainees, supervisors, managers of this, managers of that, and so on. Remember, these are the days long before the internet, long before cell phones. Those are the days of newspapers, ads, things like that. So if you had to physically go out and search for a job, it wasn't just a matter of point and click like we do now on a computer system. So, as I said before, people came in by the thousands into the building above us, look at the job boards for all kinds of levels of jobs, from sweeper, cleaner, manager of all kinds, and so on. And the idea was they would go from that location, the same part of our building. I think we were on the 3rd floor. This government location was on, I think, the 6th floor. And they would come in by the hundreds, literally hundreds, from upstairs to downstairs to our offices. In our building, there were several companies doing the same thing we were, getting people jobs. But many, many times, there were hundreds of people, literally hundreds, in the hallway, lined up one by one, into our offices. Now, obviously, you had to have some kind of crowd control because any new applicant came into our offices had to be screened properly, fill out an application form, they have their resume with them, hopefully, and go on step by step. So it was a very tedious kind of an operation. Now, the particular company is called Businessmen's Clearinghouse. You're going, Businessmen's Clearinghouse? It was run by General Employment Enterprise out of Chicago. We were just one branch of the office here in Toronto area. So my job as an employment counselor, just like it sounds, the secretary would allow so many people to see you, see him, see her, and so on. In turn, one by one. So a person would come up to my desk. It was an open desk section. You're saying to yourself, what do you mean by open desk? Well, if I'm facing forward, somebody's facing me, the applicant is facing me to the side of my desk, and so on. The supervisor was within 10 feet away, that kind of thing. So he or she was near us, hearing all part of the conversation, could actually see the applicant at the same time. So we had people from all over the world come in, English skills or no English skills, people dressed for an interview, not dressed for an interview, and so on. Stories galore I could give you another time. So basically, though, my job was to cold call companies out there to get openings, create openings for jobs. Now, you might say to yourself, how do you do that? Well, here's an example. Let's say you're in front of me and you have a huge background in ball bearings. This actually happened. A gentleman came in. He was from India originally. His English was fine. And however, he had a problem understanding basic English when it came to certain conversations. So I'd ask him his name, and all he said was, yes, sir. I'd ask again, what's your name? No, sir. Yeah, that kind of issue with English skills. Now, the funny thing is, not the funny people around me would call me, and my boss would call me on the telephone, phone call. They would say, I'd get a phone call from my boss, like I said, on the telephone. I'd pick it up. Can I help you? Can I help you? What's up? And my boss would say, sorry, this person is not going to help us get you for him a job. Get rid of him as soon as you can. Close the interview. Leave. Tell him to leave. We can't help him. And I looked at the boss like 10 feet away and I said, no, I'm going to help this applicant. I'm going to help this applicant. The reason I'm saying this to you all is because I looked at his resume and had incredible knowledge about ball bearings. Now, if you don't know what ball bearings are, they're tiny metal balls, like it sounds, using all kinds of equipment, all right? And he wanted to work in a company that manufactured these little small things because he worked a lot back home, not just India, other countries. He had like 15 years experience. I realized his English skills were not the greatest, but he had the knowledge. That's the key. So in this particular case, what happened is they gave me a huge telephone book. In those days, of course, we didn't have the internet. So we had a thing called the Yellow Pages. Had a list of all kinds of manufacturers, all kinds of locations all across the Toronto GTA area of companies that manufacture ball bearings, for this example. I called the companies, A, B, C, D, whatever, and most of them said, sorry, I can't help you, sorry, I can't help you. One called Canadian Ball Bearings. Yeah, this is basically the speech. This is Mr. Little at General Boeing Enterprises, or in this case, Businessmen's Clearinghouse. I'm representing a gentleman here who's done this, this, and this. When would you like to see him? He might be a great candidate for your location. And what happened next was I would try to open up the doorway for a job opportunity. Yeah. The employer on the other end of the phone would say, Mr. Little, tell me about this person in front of you. I would say he or she's done this, this, and this, and he'd be a very good asset to your company. So my job was to create that opening for your company. Yeah. And if you're good on the phone like I was, you create a lot of jobs that didn't exist before. You are creating opportunities and jobs for this applicant in front of you. So in this particular case, Canadian Ball Bearing said, yes, I want to see this guy as soon as possible. Now, I did not mention about his English skills. No. But I could tell by the person on the other end of the phone's accent, he had similar issues with English pronunciation, English skills, listening to words on the phone. I could tell. So I'm saying to myself, the person on the phone I was talking to and the applicant in front of me were a perfect match. Yeah. So I told the gentleman beside me for this particular job, this company's world is well known. It's been around for 40-something years. It's in the Mississauga area. It just so happened the applicant lives in Mississauga area. Yeah. So I sent him out of interview. I told the interview person, basically talk like this, act like this, be prepared for the interview, do some research. Yeah. The interview itself was the following day. So he had a day to go to a library and do research on that company I was sending it to. Yeah. He went out for the interview the following day. He got the job. Yeah, he got the job. Now you hear about that good story. Now here's the opposite. A gentleman came in, he was from England. The issue was not English skills, no. The issue was his age, yeah. He was about 70, 72 years old. He worked back in England selling fluorescent light products. Fluorescent lights that you have in the ceiling offices and so on. He came to Canada looking for a job selling fluorescent lights, just like he did in England for 35 years. And he wanted a very high salary. I said, wait a minute, come back to reality a little bit. I said, well, at first he asked me, Brian, Mr. Little, can I have like $100,000 a year salary, plus a company car, etc., etc. I said, listen, here in Canada, you just came into our country. You have no background working in this country. I realize you're an expert of selling your products back home. This is a different country, different customs, different traditions, and so on. I'm trying to match your background with us. So basically told this gentleman, come out of the clouds to reality. I will get you an interview for large companies here in Toronto who sell lighting products, yes, but you have to be realistic about your salary. Yeah. So I told the gentleman, instead of $100,000 a year, I can possibly get you a salary and a company car down to $65,000 a year. Yeah. You might say to yourself, in those days, that was very good money. This is back in the early 1980s. Yeah. So I contacted several companies like General Electric. Yeah. Sylvania. Yeah. Large companies you can heard of before. And I set up an interview for this gentleman as a sales rep selling fluorescent light products. I sent him out. He got the job. So there's an example. People have high expectations of money and everything else based on their background. But realistically speaking, I bring them back to reality. Yeah. But you get all kinds of people come in the door. Literally all kinds of people from all over the world. All English backgrounds or not. Yeah. The key is to understand, is this a marketable person to try to get a job for or not? You really have to think about that as an employment counselor. Some people have been doing this for 30, 40 years as an employment counselor, working for large companies, executive companies, small companies, and so on. You have to have a lot of contacts and a lot of kinds of industries to be successful in this particular occupation. It's not easy. It's not. And most times you're getting commission, which simply means I get you a job and your particular salary is based on their salary per year. You get a percentage, like a retainer, like a lawyer does. But again, they have to go through certain probation of that company, and you don't get paid until they get paid and finish their probation, or 3 months, 6 months, whatever it is. So obviously, the higher the income that particular applicant makes, the higher your paycheck will be. But again, you have to be really top of your game, professional beyond belief. And we have executive search places or companies here in Toronto area who do such things. Let's say some salaried employees out there make over $150,000 a year. And you went to an executive search company to get a job. And now some executive search companies simply charge you a fee to help you get a larger job situation. No guarantee. They do interviewing skills, resume skills, performance skills, communication skills, and so on. You pay a large fee, sometimes $1,500, to have that company teach you things like that. Yeah. So I worked as an employment counselor for over 2 years. Now, when I started, I was a counselor like everybody else. However, within 3 months, I became supervisor of a four men desk section. Yeah, I became their supervisor. And we had monthly meetings, we had weekly meetings and things like that. We tried to promote certain companies and things like that. It was very, very successful at it. One thing I must mention, one of the largest companies that came to our actual office was McDonald's. Yeah, when McDonald's Canada came to Canada from the United States, I was there. I was in the actual office when they came in, basically. And they're looking for all kinds of management trainees to work in their stores. There was a gentleman named Mr. Kofsky. I remember his name. And he asked me, Mr. Little here, to help send in many, many people to their stores as management trainees. In those days, McDonald's had a negative interview and a positive interview, which simply means I would send them out for a job interview and send them out for management trainee positions to a negative interview. And I told the people ahead of time what a negative interview means. It simply means you're working at McDonald's, you're standing on your feet, it's very hot in the back of the kitchen, steam going everywhere. That's a negative interview. If you pass the negative interview part of the system, then there's a positive interview. We're McDonald's, one of the largest restaurant companies on the planet. We have stock, we have benefits, all kinds of things you can go far in McDonald's. So once you pass the negative and the interview and the positive interview, you're going to work for McDonald's. I was very, very successful. But a lot of companies, including McDonald's at that time, thought we're McDonald's, we're the king of the world. And I said to people on the phone, Mr. Kofsky at that time, no, you're not God's gift, sorry the expression. You're like everybody else. I treat you like a small company or large, I treat you the same way. If you don't like my method, what I'm doing, ask somebody else. I never had a problem. Never had a problem. Because to me, it doesn't matter the size of the company or not. It doesn't matter. I treat you the same way, equally, totally equally. And remember, if you're loyal to a company, you help get jobs for their particular needs, they love you. They'll contact you more than anybody else. It's true. So yes, I was an employment counselor. I was very, very successful. After I became a supervisor, I was there for another year. So I was there almost 3 years. Yeah, almost 3 years. And this was just after going to Ryerson. And I took business administration at Ryerson. So this just added to my portfolio of my assets and my background, helping people get jobs, to understand people from around the world, communication with people around the world, and it added more and more for my teaching skills, which I'm very highly successful at. This is Mr. Little at lightningesl.com, Job Diaries. Thank you very much for your time. Bye-bye.